So, my name is James, and I am a creative technologist here at Hypersolid. Now, when I reflect on the course of my career so far, the amount of disruptive change that I've experienced in the last year or so has been unlike any other periods. And that's, I think we all know the reason why, is because of AI. Because of how massively these models have been improving in intelligence and their capability, and the tools at which are shaped around them, it's caused me to kind of go back to the mentality that I had when I was a junior, learning new things and being open to new ways of doing things. And that's not to say that my skills and experiences are now to be forgotten, but to be open to new ways of doing things. And also for you all to maybe think as well in the back of your mind how this maybe resonates into your areas of expertise as well. So today I want to give you a little bit of an introduction into what it is that I do here at Hypersolid in the Innovation Lab, a team that I'm very grateful to be a part of. And then I'm going to take you on a little bit of a journey of where we've come from and where we are now in this messy world of AI. And then lastly, I want to go through with you how we in the innovation team have navigated through this period. So this is where I'm grateful to work. This is our innovation lab. It is a beautiful, chaotic place. Wires everywhere, stuff everywhere. But it's in this room that we get to break things for good reason. It's where we get to test things, new software, hardware, and ways of doing things. And then also where we get to create things as well, whether that be new innovations or new approaches to doing our work. And this room has gone through all sorts of different hype cycles. It's gone through the dot-com boom, I think. I'm not sure. I wasn't there for that part. But it's also been through the era of the metaverse, where we experimented a lot with virtual reality and augmented reality. And now we're very firmly in the era of AI. And for those eagle-eyed ones of you here, you may be noticing these stickers and even the black and yellow tape on the floor there. That's because our room is AI active. And what that means actually is we have this little ongoing experiment, which is Omni, our omnipresent experiment, our AI virtual colleague. It's just a computer and a bunch of wires and microphones dangling from the ceiling. But in fact, what Omni is doing is constantly listening and recording 24/7 to everything that we talk about. And through this mess of computers and machines, we have all sorts of different programs and AI models running. And it's all local and open source. And it then makes connections, similar to how we do in our brains. We observe things in the day and come up with ideas. Well, we've been experimenting with Omni, our virtual colleague, to try and do the same thing and to inspire us. Previously, Omni used to have a voice and it used to talk to us and give us ideas, but he didn't, or it, I should say, didn't understand social cues. So we took away its voice, but now it has a screen. And on this screen, it gives us all sorts of weird and wonderful insights of ideas that it's come up with based on the things that it's learned from us during the day. And also from 6 months ago, it remembers that I had a dentist appointment on Tuesday, the 5th of February, whatever. It has a perfect memory. And as well as any other good colleague who thinks and inspires, we've also given Omni its own ability to kind of contribute and to do work as well. So it has access to its own computer where it can code, it can take screenshots of the screen and open up Photoshop if it wants to, and if it can contribute in that way. Go onto the internet, apply for a credit card, but it hasn't done that just yet. And this is an example of where we take AI to the extreme, because it doesn't work very well. Fortunately, it's not got Employee of the Month just yet, but it's definitely a bit of a weird experiment into this world of AI. And if you're also potentially thinking of those Stanley Kubrick fans out there, that this is a bit like HAL from A Space Odyssey, then I'm also with you there. That was what Omni's voice was previously based on. So why do these types of experiments? Well, I think it's a beautiful thing, and the reason why I'm grateful is to have a space like that where we can explore and creatively associate through different things. In the process of Omni, building this weird and wonderful machine, we learned so much about all various different parts of AI. We learned about local open source models, DeepSeek, and how to run them and how to optimize them, how to run them on mobile. And as a result as well, what we can do is share that knowledge, beautiful illustration, we can share that knowledge with our colleagues and enable them to also then adopt the learnings that we take and explore in our lab, and then hopefully bring that into your applications and software. And the other thing as well is that technology, I'm a true technologist, and I think possibilities are limitless with technology, and just having a space where you're able to creatively go and do whatever you want and see the limits and to pioneer what's possible, I think it's just a very unique thing to have in this day and age. So now you know a little bit about the awesome job that I get to do. Let's also now talk about what it is that we have been experiencing in this AI era. Well, where have we come from? It's crazy to think now that we have AI writing code for us that this was the reality at some points. Ones and zeros and even physical pieces of paper that you'd put into a big machine that would take up a whole building. And that journey is the beginning of programming's level of abstraction, where we now have programming languages. And that's been the norm for the longest time, where we can start to understand what we're programming. But we are now firmly in this whole new era where rather than programming and writing code ourselves, we're in this era with all of these recognizable logos that are claiming to be the new next big thing. We first got a taste for this with Copilot, where you would write a line of your code and then by magic, it would finish off what you were writing. And when you think about back with the ones and zeros and the machine code, it's absolutely unbelievable to think that that's where we are now. But it also even gets weirder and stranger when you think about platforms like Bolt and Replit, that you give it a prompt and it then builds your entire application and deploys it. It's really unfathomable. But we're talking about two very different extremes here and for two very different use cases. But this especially helps people without any technical background to be able to even just start the conversation about getting involved in technology. But amongst this is also an array of other platforms. And these are not just some names to throw away. These are some of the most profitable startups and fastest growing companies in the world right now. So they need to be taken into consideration. But how do you do it? It takes up so much time and energy and effort to adopt new tools. Where should you look to? And the answer is I don't have the answer for everybody here, but I do, and I can tell you how we in the Innovation Lab have been navigating this. Now, within the Innovation Lab, we are self-acclaimed generalists. We are a small team, 3 people with an army of the most talented interns that you have ever met. But what we do is we build proof of concepts. So we build things that are not production level, but get an idea across and have it working. And as a result, and being a small team, we need to be able to do the full scale of things. Front end, back end, security. And previously, we would get into bottlenecks. We'll get stuck on things. Programming and building is just a bunch of micro little problems. And some problems are just really frustrating and you get stuck for a long time. But this new illustration is really an accurate depiction of how it's felt for me and for my colleagues in this AI revolution, where it's sort of a renaissance. We now have this new ability. Our foundation knowledge and everything across the board has been multiplied. And as a result, the speed at which that we can build proof of concepts is so much more faster now. It's sick. So, in order to get that new abilities, we've adopted new AI tools in order to help us through that. And this is a rough sort of illustration of our innovation team's playbook. Now, I'm actually not going to be talking to you so much about coding today. That's the main topic of conversation with AI. But what I'm illustrating to you here are all of the steps that come even before coding, where we come up with the idea, we build up this beautiful context that then when it comes to finally coding, we have all of this context so that the AI model that we then use executes it perfectly. So starting off with the idea. Well, we have a lot of ideas in the innovation team, and before AI as well, but especially now because the level of entry of building has become so much lower that ideas that maybe we would have passed off as not being worth the time are now worth the time. Within the innovation team, we work on two types of different things. There's disruptive innovation, where it's really those out there ideas like Omni, and as well as assisted innovation, which is when we directly help clients with problems and issues that they have. To give you two examples of both of those, Local Canvas is one of those Omni-type projects where it's a little bit out there, but where we learned a lot in the process. It's inspired by the fact that more than likely, you've used DALL-E or Midjourney or whatever to generate images, and the outputs are perfect, and they keep on getting more perfect. And we were kind of frustrated by the fact that what can we do as a humble innovation team? We don't have the resources to train the data sets that ChatGPT can in order to produce these types of results. So we then flipped the script on its head and thought, well, what happens if you train an AI model on just one image? And as you can see here, this little drawing, I won't name names who drew that, but an AI model trained on just that one image produces a really fun, different approach to AI generative art. And then it really got us thinking of all of the different possibilities that we could do with this. And sure, the results are not perfect, but it gives you, this AI model is now owned by someone. It belongs to them, and the AI model becomes the artwork. And so actually, to show how abstract we can get, we would love to exhibit this in like the Stedelijk Museum or something. So if anyone has any contacts, I'd love to actually put this somewhere in an art museum. On the other side of the spectrum, we have the assisted innovation work. So to tell a story about this particular thing, we had a brainstorming session booked in the afternoon for a client, where they had a very specific use case. They needed to translate content into different languages, but they have a very specific tone of voice. And currently right now, they spend a lot of money on translators. And that brainstorming session was in the afternoon. But what we did instead is in the morning within our innovation lab is we came up with a working proof of concept in that morning. So you can imagine the delight that we were met with when we arrived to the brainstorming session with something already working. That's a kind of an illustration of the speed at which things have changed now. So to continue on with that, how did we build that proof of concept in just an afternoon? So now I'm going to get into the nitty-gritty. So we have the idea. And an app that I use way more commonly these days is my voice memos app. Now, I don't know if you've experienced, but transcribing has gotten so much more accurate now. Gone are the days where you would talk to your phone and it would transcribe your text and it completely gets it wrong. Now they're so good and you talk 3 times faster than you do write. So when we have an idea, we need to do a brain dump of get everything out of our heads. And so we do it via a voice memo, and we essentially program what it is that we want to build with our voice. And so this is where we say how we want it to work, what it shouldn't do, and we program it. And these voice memos, I've got them, some of them last for multiple hours. I'd also recommend this for anyone who's not programming, but just to get ideas down and to make sense of them. Because what we then do is, and the other thing I want to mention is, before the stereotypical vision of a programmer is someone in a dimly lit room programming for hours, but now I get to do it and touch grass at the same time. So it's also a nice life upgrade there as well. But once I've got this voice memo, I can then use AI and I start the conversation with ChatGPT or Claude, and make sense of this voice memo where I've gone and mapped loads of tangents, and it creates this first blueprint for me of what it is that I want to build. And there we can then continue the conversation. So as I said, we're a bunch of generalists. So there's some areas that we're not specialized in. Maybe we don't have too much experience in how to design nice applications and how to do good UI. Well, that's where, because we've built up that context with that voice memo, ChatGPT or Claude or whoever is able to then pick up on things where there's some gaps. For example, here, it's telling me that my ideas for colors are maybe not very good. Or here, for example, I don't want to waste my time spending and learning about GDPR and stuff like that and cookie consent banners. This is where I utilize AI to fill in those gaps so I can focus more on what's important to me, which is my taste and my, innovative ability, rather than worrying about those things. And then the last thing to show here is another example of where I offload some of the work so that I can then focus on what I want to do best. So here, this is, you may have heard of an acronym MCP, but essentially what it is AI's ability to use tools. So right now, Figma is a UI building platform, may have heard of it. And Claude, ChatGPT, whatever, is communicating and using Figma directly. And again, because of this rich context that we've built and that we've assembled in this conversation, it knows how to then come up with different UI designs. And this is just one example of it using one of my tools. Here, I can also ask it to take over my Gmail responsibilities, emailing my colleagues. I can ask it to take care of all of my Jira tickets and tick them off once they're done. So this also prompts the question of what our user interface is in the future when we maybe have AI as an interface in between them. But that's a whole other topic, I think. So throughout this process, we built up this amazing context so that when it then comes to going into Cursor or Claude, essentially these AI coding environments, this context is so rich that when it comes to coding, it's really often just in a click of the button. We've already done all the hard work, we've already programmed it, but then actually writing the code is a much more easier and smoother process. So that is our playbook, and yeah, the benefits have been essentially, among many things, that we are able to build our proof of concept so much more quicker, and so then hopefully that means indirect benefits to you as our clients in order to then get to market quicker as well. And so if there's anyone here who's also thinking that they want to embrace this junior mindset again, then I'm also more than happy to be your sparring partner as well. So thank you very much.